Hey everyone, and welcome into the Thursday, August 19th edition of Leading Off, presented by Manscaped. I am your host, Brendan Tuma. You can find me on Twitter at TooMuchTuma. With me today is the boss man, Dan Harris, on Twitter at DanHarris80. Dan, my first question for you today. We're getting a little later in the week. Are you sick of doing podcasts with Mayor and I yet?
Yes. It did not take very long for me to reach that point. It was like 6 words into our first podcast where I said, "Oh, good Lord, what have I done?" Now, look, unlike some unnamed former hosts of this show, I power right through, man. All right. We have a 12-hour fantasy football fest coming up on our live stream. In case you haven't noticed, by the way, I'm completely exhausted. We're fine. We have a 12-hour live stream on our YouTube channel, youtube.com/FantasyPros. And I am here and I am sucking it up and talking to you. If Mayor were here, it would be the worst day of my life. But we'll power through because that's what we do. So thank you for asking, and I appreciate your concern. It's terrible, but I'm hanging in there.
Whichever one of us isn't here feels like gets like the brunt of the jokes from you.
Yeah.
I was listening yesterday when Mayo was on, and you came in. You're like, "Oh, thank God, Tuma's not here." So.
It's true, and I will. I do this with Yates sometimes because I insult Kyle Yates quite a bit. When deep down Yates knows that I'm very fond of him. And I will say that you and Mayor are doing a fantastic job on the show. Both when you had your own show, when you guys have been here, I'm really enjoying it, and I'm really impressed by both of you. So that is my one serious moment for the day. You can take that, and that's Mayor, always here, Mayor. Gosh, love that guy.
Yeah, so Dan might not be happy to be here, but maybe he's in a bit of a better mood because the Mets won last night, and they really needed that win. Because my first up for the day, if we're just getting right into it here, is that Freddie Freeman hits for the cycle. The Braves have won 13 of 15 games. The Braves keep rolling. Dansby Swanson had another good game. Austin Riley had another good game. I don't know if there's a ton of fantasy takeaways from that, Dan, because, those guys are rostered everywhere. You're starting them. But, man, the Braves have really come to life without Ronald Acuna.
Yeah, bizarro world. I liked what they did at the trade deadline where they just added some low-cost acquisitions that they didn't work out. No big deal. Didn't cost them real prospects or anything, but gave them some good depth. Those guys haven't even done anything, right? Like Jorge Soler was cool for like 5 seconds, but it's all the core. Albies has played great. Freeman obviously hits for the cycle. Dansby, we've talked about a couple of times, and Riley. They have a soft schedule right now, right? They're beating up. They're doing what good teams are supposed to do. But yeah, the Phillies are very mediocre. They're having trouble with the Diamondbacks. The Mets stink. A nice win yesterday. I admit it's weird too. I don't know if I know you're very upset about the Red Sox, but I don't know if you feel this way. Like I've been so angry at the Mets, and I saw this coming. It's like the sinking of the Titanic, where you're like, well, I know how this ends once we hit the iceberg. Like this ends on the bottom of the ocean, but I still find myself getting upset as I see the boat going down, down, down. That's how it's been for me. But yesterday when Pilar hit that home run, I'm like yelling. I'm like getting into it and crazy. Baseball is the best, man. It gets you in a way I think that no other sport does. So yeah, in the end, you're right. No real fantasy takeaway with the Braves other than I hope my good friend John, who's a huge Braves fan and trolls me, is listening to this because I do think you're going to win the East. I hate you, but yeah, they're all great.
I think all you can ask for out of your baseball team is to play meaningful games, in August and September. And, we'll see if the Mets can hold the ship, keep it above water enough to get to September like that. But
they can't. DeGrom's probably going to I'm sure we'll get to it. And they're probably going to shut him down for the year, and they should, I hope that guy who had the Ohtani DeGrom MVP parlay was able to cash that ticket in because I don't think DeGrom's going to make it. I'm eating breakfast, by the way, on the show, just so you know. All right. I have a long thing. You're going to see me eating breakfast. Everybody, it's our podcast. We can have fun. So sorry about that.
You can do it. You want, again, you are the boss man. It's reminiscent of, eating breakfast and finishing homework up in homeroom. Speaking of Shohei Ohtani, he became the first hitter to reach 40 homers. He also pitched last night, 8 sharp innings. He's pitched at least 6 innings in every start since the beginning of July, but he hasn't reached 100 pitches in any of them. So he's been extremely efficient as a pitcher. There's nothing else to say at this point. He's going to win MVP. he's going to be a top 3, whatever pick next year. Is there any other Ohtani takeaways?
No, not really. Just that he's incredible. If he's one player, you can only play him as one. You play him as a hitter, and you lose out on the great pitching stats. But it's amazing. Every day it's amazing. So not much takeaway.
Someone who's not as amazing, but has been amazing lately is Frank Schwindel. And this is August fantasy baseball, ladies and gentlemen, talking about Frank Schwindel as one of the top takeaways from a night. He has 7 straight games with an extra base hit. He's just been on fire. Again, this is a Cubs outfielder, by the way, for anyone who doesn't know the name Frank Schwindel. I guess, it's reminiscent of Patrick Wisdom from earlier this summer, but if you want to pick him up and ride the hot bat, go for it. I don't have huge expectations though.
No, this is not the guy that I pick up, but yeah, there's the ride. He's destroying fastballs. He has a 771 slugging percentage against fastballs. When you start throwing him some off-speed stuff, his expected batting average goes to 094. So it's probably one of these classic guys pitchers will address. You can probably ride him for like 5 more days, and then I think the wheels are going to come off. But those guys will get you, every day you can check off the calendar at this point is another day. You don't have to worry about an injury or something like that. So very short term, you can ride them.
It's going to be tight. Before we get to our downs, Mr. Buster says today's the Fantasy Fest. That is correct, Mr.
Yes.
Buster.
So very quickly, that is on our other YouTube channel. This YouTube channel is just for you guys, just for baseball. That is on our regular YouTube channel, youtube.com/FantasyPros, is going to be 12 hours, 10 a.m. Eastern, very short from now, till 10 p.m. Eastern. We have guests on from around the entire industry: Jake Seeley, Field Yates, Sean Kerner, Jamie Eisenberg, just everybody coming on, every topic again. So tune into that for sure. It's going to be a good time. Thank you, Tuma.
Moving on to the downs. My biggest down was a bit minor news that came out, but it's that Patrick Sandoval landed on the 10-day IL with a left lumbar spine stress reaction. Doesn't sound good. The reason that this is such a big deal is because, again, we're in August right now where all the good players are rostered. You're starting them anyway. Sandoval was one pitcher who was a bit under the radar, who I thought could, just propel fantasy managers to titles down the stretch. I love swinging strike rate. It's my favorite stat for pitchers. Among starters with at least 80 innings, he ranked 8th in this. And that's just behind Corbin Burns. Max Scherzer was right ahead of Garrett Cole. I don't know. I'm super bummed about it. Sounds like it could be season ending.
Yeah, I'm going to assume at this point that he is not going to pitch again. I would drop him if I rostered him. If you want a silver lining, it's that I don't think people were as in on him, Tuma, as probably guys like you and I were, because we saw all the underlying stuff. Like, I don't hear anybody talk about him really. I don't know what his rostered percentage is. I'm too lazy to look it up at the moment. But my guess is it wasn't through the roof. Next year, maybe the community will sort of, you'll get some buzz on him as a major sleeper. But my guess is he'll be undervalued because before he got a chance to drive fantasy managers to championships, he's going to get shut down. So there is a silver lining. It's that next year, hopefully his price will stay below what it should be, but it's very disappointing. And even this week, like, I'm in a head-to-head points league. You didn't know about this. He had a bad start last time, but he's locked in your lineup now for the week, and that's tough. But I do think it's probably season ending at this point, given where the Angels are, and I would go ahead and move on.
Well, we know the sharp minds at FantasyPros will be recommending him to everyone who
nice
our website this offseason. Also, Freddie Peralta exited Wednesday start with shoulder discomfort. A little concerning just because, he's dealing with a big workload for the first time in his career. And also Lance Lynn got ejected for the way Mayo wrote this note, in quotes, throwing his belt at the umpire during a foreign substance check.
That's accurate. That's exactly what happened. He threw his belt at him. Now, this is a little overblown because I feel like people are sort of like, oh my God, he's just got, he basically was like in the dugout, and then we're like, no, man, we got to do your check. And he had left his glove out there. And I think he was probably trying to use the restroom or something. He was like, oh, take my belt. It's fine. Not anything crazy. Also, Lancelin can do no wrong because he is my hero. So, yes, but not as bad as people are making it out to be. Cut the guy some slack.
I think Lance Lynn is great for this day, and because he's really just, an old school, just give me the ball. I'm going to throw 110 pitches and go 7 innings every time.
Mm-hmm.
God bless Star Platinum here. Will you be talking baseball on the
No,
fantasy?
I was about to respond to that. Star Platinum, kudos to you, man. Stick with baseball. Look, we got this podcast right now. Talk baseball with us now. To be clear, we had a fantasy baseball fest. Okay, we did. It was 4 hours. You guys may have not found us at that point. We're going to do it again next year. It's going to be probably even longer. A live stream all day with people from around the industry. They come on. Guys from the pitcher list were on. Justin Mason was on. All these great guests. This one is the Fantasy Football Fest. That's all. We do it in draft season, but we will do it next year again. Now that you probably have discovered us, which you probably hadn't at that time, we will do a Fantasy Baseball Fest for sure. Long live stream giveaways, all that stuff next year, I promise. So there's no backseat to baseball, okay? It's just this is draft season. That's what we do.
The Frank Schwindel Fantasy Baseball Fest questions will have to wait.
Yeah, there are enough in here to fill like 7 hours. Everybody wants to know about Schwindel. So enjoy it for like 4 more days. All right, guys, do it.
Moving on to Tuesday's pitching standouts. Jack Flaherty again. He's just back. Must start every time. 6 innings, 2 runs, 8 strikeouts. Tyler McGill pitched pretty well for the Mets against the Giants. He's got a 3.21 ERA. A 116 whip. I know he started hot and then struggled. Is he of interest to you at all? Is someone following the Mets?
Yeah, he is actually. I didn't start him. I roster him in a lot of places just because Joe and I talked about him. He's got really solid raw stuff. It's not completely overpowering, but he's got the moxie too much. You see these kids come up sometimes and they come to the majors and they're like, oh my God, I'm in the majors. Coar, the guy from Kansas City, right? You were like, oh God, you're not ready for this. It's okay. It's okay. There's some major leagues. I know when I make it to the major leagues, I'm going to be pretty, stunned too. But he had the moxie where he was ready to take it on. It looked like they were starting to figure him out, right? Just a little bit here. He had given up 4 earned runs, 4, 4, and 3 over his last couple of starts after basically being dominant. But if you watch this start, this was like, I'll call it a big boy start. Like this was not only were the Mets in desperate need, but he got a lot. Your swinging strikes, you love it. He got a ton of them and 6 strikeouts against a team that like the Giants, who really don't do that all that much. So this is a guy who I do have interest in. I'm pretty sure he gets the Dodgers in his next start or something. So I may not start him there, but after that, for the rest of the season, especially with the DeGrom injury, he's in that rotation. So I do have interest in him. Yes.
Yeah, he's speaking of guys like Sandoval and Schwindel. These are the type of names you really need to be monitoring down the stretch that can help win your leagues. Someone that interests me is Josiah Gray, who had 6 innings of 2-run ball, just 4 strikeouts, but the swinging strikes were there again. Again, speaking of swinging strike rate for the season, Josiah Gray's at 17.2%. That's really good. He has a bit of a home run problem, 11 homers in 30 innings on the year. But at least last night, he limited it to solo shots. I've been kind of impressed since the trade. I think the Nationals are just going to ride him. I have a note here. He gets the Marlins and Mets next week in a 2-start week. So I definitely roll with him there.
Yeah, I mean, if he could solve the home run issue, he would be dominant. But like you sort of mentioned, if you're going to give up home runs, make them solo. And that's kind of what he's able to do. So with the strikeouts, I'm really impressed with him from what I've seen. I really am. Long-term for sure. I know that's your jam, man. You like to look like, what's it going to look like 17 years down the road right now? But even right now, this year for the rest of it, totally fine with him. I really, really like what I've seen for sure.
Mitch White for the Dodgers had 7 1/3 innings.
Not a real human. Not a real person. Not a real person.
Go ahead.
No, nothing. I got nothing. I didn't mean to cut you off. I was just, I saw it. I saw his box score. I didn't watch that game. I saw his box score and I was like, what the F is this? That's really what I said. I was like, what are you talking about right now? So please tell me you have some insight into Mitch White, because I do not.
I actually think he used to be a name, not like a top guy, but a top 100 prospect guy. I would have to go back, in the archives and double check that. But I think he used to have like a little bit of buzz at least, but just classic Dodgers to have someone, like that come up and, because they needed more arms. But,
right. That's what you need. Yes.
Some studs being studs. Charlie Morton, 6 innings, 2 runs, 9 strikeouts. Zach Greinke, 6 innings of 1-run ball with no strikeouts. But again, you'll take that for the ratios. Some closer notes here. Kyle Finnegan of the Nationals had a 4-out save. He looks like the closer. Daniel Bard picked up another save. We just talked about him. He's going to hurt your ratios, but if you need saves. And then Drew Steckenrider got the save for the Mariners last night. It's his first save, in like 10 days. So a lot of these situations since the trade deadline are just kind of gross. And it really, to me, it's not even about whether the pitch is good or not. It's if you have the roster spot to roster someone who might get, 3 saves a month, which I think that's sometimes the biggest hurdle is getting past the roster spot aspect of it, not even if a pitcher's good or not.
Yeah, there are like 10 closers that you're like, I will roster you because I feel comfortable with you getting saves. But, you go out to Kansas City and you have no idea really what's going to happen there. So I don't know, man. Like I tell you what, Tuma, like a guy who I picked up for no fab whatsoever when the trade deadline happened and everybody was moving and making these deals. And Finnegan, fine. Like he's a guy, obviously you can go, but nobody wanted Tyler Clippard, even though we knew that he was the guy. Like we knew it. I get that he's 4,000 years old and I get that he plays for a bad team, but that's a guy who you roster because you'll get a handful of saves. And when they do have save opportunities, and they're not that bad, by the way, they didn't completely get rid of everybody on their team. They're not that bad a team, the Diamondbacks now. That's a guy who I would easily roster and start rather than these guys who I'm like, I don't know who's getting the next save in half of these teams. A guy like Tyler Clippard, still available because he's Tyler Clippard, go pick him up and then put him in there because that's a guy who will get you probably 1 or 2 saves every single week.
As a Patriots fan, I've long said that fans of other teams don't understand what good football actually looks like sometimes. And Dan hyping up the Diamondbacks just shows me, he just has years of watching the Mets to lower his bar and lower his expectations.
That's when you can really get some stuff done, right? Because you're like, look, I don't care. Brendan, this is going to be a name that you will not at all remember, but I remember a year. In fact, I'm going to look him up right now. Have you ever heard of the player Sean Chacon, Brendan? Okay, if you haven't, he was a little before your time, meaning like 10 years ago. Never heard of him?
Fantasy baseball in 2005. So.
Okay, so I'm going back to the year where Sean Chacon, where was it? I can't even find. He had a 7.39. No, that's wrong. Sorry, give me a second. 7.11 ERA for the Rockies and got 35 saves. I loved Sean Chacon. Okay, I rostered Sean Chacon in every single league. I was like, I'll deal with your horrible ERA because I know every time they get a shot, he had 9 losses. He was 1-9, but with 35 saves. That's the type of guy that Dan Harris could look at because Dan Harris has watched the Mets and the Jets his entire life. So you're like, I don't care. That's fine with me. I take guys with the 7.11 ERAs all day long if they get me 35 saves. So yeah, do what you need to do with that. But yes, you're right. Tyler Clippard is my poster child because I've gotten 4 saves since I've rostered him. So screw you, Tuma.
And the blessings of being a Mets fans. Hitters. We had a lot of 2-homer games last night. Max Muncy had 2 homers for the second time in 4 days. I think he could win NL MVP. Will Myers hit 2 homers. Avisel Garcia has 23 homers, 6 stolen bases, and he's hitting 274. If you've just had him in your lineup all year long in Roto, that's tremendous. And then Marcus Semien just continues an amazing resurgent year with 2 more homers. Any of those 4 names stand out to you for any reason?
I mean, Marcus Semion's amazing, and it's really ridiculous, I guess, that basically he was cast aside this entire offseason, right? Anybody could have had him. He's on a 1-year deal, I think, right, with the Blue Jays. So, right? So, good kudos to that guy. That's really what I like to see. And Avisel Garcia, what's annoying to me is that I had him in a league where it's very matchup dependent because he's available because nobody really likes him. I think he hit a homer. Then he got hit, I think, on the hand, and he was out for the next couple of games. And just roster spots we talked about, Brendan, they're precious. So I had to move on. But it's really good to see, he made an effort this offseason to kind of slim down and get in shape, and it's good to see it paying off. He might be available in your league still at this point. You should roster him for sure because, the Brewers are in that park, and they're generally winning games, and they're generally putting up offensive stats. And really, he's just a guy who nobody talks about, but has quietly had a really good season.
Exactly. Teoscar Hernandez homered in his 4th straight game in 82 plate appearances since the end of July. He's hitting .423 with 7 homers and a 1.207 OPS. Ryan Mountcastle hit his 20th home of the year. Congrats,
Mayor. Yeah, Mayor. Good call on that.
Wander Franco went 3 for 4 with a double, a walk, 2 RBIs, and a run scored. He's hitting a lot better since the All-Star break. AJ Pollock has been on fire. He went 3 for 5 with the homer last night. He hit 371 in July, and he's hitting 375 in August. I be honest, I kind of wrote him off as just someone who's injury prone and going to get platooned by the Dodgers, but he's been fantastic lately.
Yeah, I'm not picking him up just because as soon as you pick him up, he is going to go down with injury. But there was I know, Brendan, you, my producer on the kickoff, you liked the reference, but there's a branch on the sacred timeline where AJ Pollock is one of the best players in baseball, right? Because we saw when he was with the Diamondbacks, probably before your time also, but he was like a budding superstar. He was a guy who was, pushing, going to be like a 25-25 type guy. It's really just been health. He is, even now in his career, he is somebody who will produce when he's in the lineup, but I just have zero faith that he's going to be able to stay healthy enough to stay in the lineup. So again, ride him short term, but I don't expect this to last rest of the season.
If anyone in the chat understands the sacred timeline reference, let me know. I'm curious on that.
Yeah, I almost Brendan was a little mad at me that I didn't go like a full time variance authority like reference last night. But yes, if you understand the sacred timeline, what we're talking about, just drop it, please, in the chat.
You might notice that I need to shave. And it's a bit of a rainy day here in Boston, so I've been a bit lazy this morning. I haven't yet, but for all my grooming needs, I, of course, use Manscaped. And the Manscaped Lawnmower 4.0 is what you want to be using. What makes this trimmer different than all of the trimmers? It has a new multi-function on-off switch that can engage a travel lock, created for people who like to travel. The Lawnmower 4.0 gives you the ability to turn the 4000K LED spotlight on and off when needed for a more precise shave. The new trimmer even allows you to customize your trim all over through additional guard lengths with sizes 1 to 4. It's got a new look. And the best part is that you can get 20% off and free shipping if you use the code leading off at manscaped.com. That's 20% off with free shipping at manscaped.com. Use the code leading off. Please use this code to save me from these ad reads.
You love it. Hold on. I'm putting up a comment by Mr. Buster, just because if we are going to talk about Loki very quickly, I will say, don't you dare say I didn't pay enough attention to anything Marvel. Okay. We live Marvel. All right. I don't want to give away, but there's an obvious reason why now there's a branch off the sacred timeline that is going, and we know where it is and we could find it. Okay. I'm not giving anything away. Don't tell me that I wouldn't know. Nexus event. Sorry. Go ahead, Tuma. I love Mr. Buster. Like, he's a family member. So I want to talk about that. Go ahead.
Moving on to the duds. Tyler Mahle, 5 innings, 8 hits, 5 runs. That's, he'll be fine. Zach Plesac didn't pitch well last night. That's a bit unusual.
What? I don't understand. Mayor was actually supposed to host this one instead of Tuma. He asked off when he saw Zach Plesac because he can't defend him. Zach Plesac does not need to be rostered. Stop it. Okay, stop trying to make him a thing. He's not a thing. Go ahead.
Aroldis Chapman returned from the injured list. He pitched in a non-save situation in the 9th inning, but he gave up a run on 2 hits and a walk and was pulled. Before the game, the Yankees said he was the closer. I think you still got to trust him for now, and unless we really start seeing Jonathan Loaizaga or Chad Green vulturing saves. Franmil Reyes homered yesterday, but including yesterday's game, he's in a 2 for 33 slump. Don't like seeing that. He still must start. What else are you going to do? And Jesus Luzardo, this just isn't turning around with him since getting traded to the Marlins. 3 innings, 4 runs, 5 walks, really ugly. He's still rostered in 43% of ESPN leagues. That just must be people not paying attention, but no reason for optimism on Jesus Luzardo right now.
Correct. There was none in the minors this year either. That was the thing, right? It was like when he got optioned to the minors, maybe he'll show something. He didn't at all. So I think it's just the name and people can't get past that. So 0 reason to roster him in any league.
I'm going to quickly fly through a few news and notes. George Springer is back on the IL with a grade 1 knee sprain. It sounds like a multi-week injury. That is devastating. Anthony Rizzo returned from the COVID IL. He had a big 2 RBI hit. It's worth noting that he played last night and Luke Voit didn't. They do have this roster crunch that I am extremely interested in to see how it plays out. I think Voit could lose the most playing time, but I think it's something to monitor over the next few days. We got good news on Chris Bassett. At least his vision is still 20/20. He's got to undergo surgery in a few days. Just really glad that he is okay. Byron Buxton he's been out since June, but he's going to take live batting practice on Thursday, and he could begin a rehab assignment within a few days. Are you ready to get hurt again from a Byron Buxton re-injury?
Part of me is always ready to be hurt by Byron Buxton re-injury, but as of right now, I'm still not ever expecting him to play in the majors this season, because I imagine something's going to go wrong on the rehab assignment. So not getting too excited yet, but if he does, I will be all the way in for the 3 games until he crashes into the wall and is out for the season.
The last news and note I have is that Jacob deGrom, the Mets are leaning towards, as you alluded to at the top of the show, to shutting him down, which if you have the IL spot, I would, still just hold on to him until, that becomes official or anything. But if the Mets free fall continues, it could make sense for them to do that.
Yeah, I mean, you don't drop Jacob deGrom unless you're absolutely. I mean, if you're in a head-to-head league, he's not going to be back. Earliest he would be back is the very end of the season. If the Mets make a run and he's, progressing faster than they hope, maybe a couple of starts. But at this point, you can drop him if you're in any sort of crunch. If not, you just hold him and hope for the best. But I would be surprised if we see him pitch again this year.
Okay. Dan, can you fill us in on the home run leaderboard from the Peanuts and the Cracker Jacks?
Yeah, sure. Thanks to Mayor, as always, for putting this together. D. Gordon Liddy, 2 home runs from Max Muncy. He moves into second place past Joey P., who has 23 home runs. Still in the lead is Randy with 26, D. Gordon Liddy with 24. Other notable home runs from yesterday: Helpless in Miami called Freddie Freeman. Well done. He has 18. Go Cards, one of our earliest listeners, also 18, called Ohtani. Mike Mayer, whatever, called Ryan Mountcastle. And Cat Fox called Xander Bogaerts. He and Mayer, or she and Mayer, don't know, have 17. Actively Lazy, a fantastic name. 2 home runs also from Max Muncy. The second time in 4 days. So again, Randy leads, D. Gordon Liddy at 24, Joey P at 23, and Lawnmower Man and Wonky Penguin sitting at 21.
We're getting down to crunch time with that. I'll be interested to see Joe's react. We'll have to check in with Joe at some point. Yeah, how he's doing mentally with losing a lead like this.
Yeah, he's not going to do well, I tell you that.
DFS tonight is a small slate. There's only 4 games tonight. There's a bunch of afternoon games for MLB. So don't worry, baseball fans. We'll still get our baseball fix. But for the night slate, there's only 4 games, and there's not a ton of pitchers to work with. Jameson Taillon, Luis Castillo, Brandon Woodruff, Taijuan Walker. I always lean, paying up for aces. Luis Castillo has been amazing lately, and he gets the Marlins. I kind of like that. It's worth noting that some of these guys have some big price discrepancies depending if you're playing on FanDuel or DraftKings. For example, Jameson Taillon, who has been really good lately, like on DraftKings, he's much, much more affordable. So just pay attention to prices like that.
Yeah, on DraftKings, I mean, Taillon is 6,300. He's 8,700 on FanDuel, and just that's not enough of a discount off of Castillo at 9,700, or even Woodruff at 10,700. Again, I think Woodruff is going to step up here, especially with the Freddie Peralta. I know he left early last start, but especially with the Freddie Peralta injury, I think you're going to see a nice start here. But I do have very few concerns about Luis Castillo against the Marlins. And I do think Taillon, who's quietly been really good now for quite a while, especially on DraftKings, is a guy you want to go after.
Hitters to build our lineups around, some cheap hitters that you could throw in. Jorge Polanco for the Twins. He's been great lately. Rougned Odor on the Yankees. Jesus Aguilar and Luke Voigt. Again, we just talked about him. If he is in the lineup, he's pretty cheap, it seems. The best game stack could be that Yankee lineup versus John Gant trade deadline acquisition of the Twins.
Yeah, I that's probably right. Again, John Gant was fun to stack against once the wheels came off when he was on the Cardinals. So yeah, certainly I expect a good game from the Yankees, and that's where I'm going for my home run call tonight. Tuma, I'm going to go with Aaron Judge. I think he's going yard tonight. I could really do anything here with the Yankees because they'll probably hit 7 home runs. Apparently the wind is blowing out anyway. How about you? Who's your home run call tonight?
I do like the Yankee call. I'm going to stick with the Yankees. I do think Rizzo's going to stay in the lineup for his defensive reasons, so I'm going to go with Anthony Rizzo. That really hurt to watch him for the Yankees last night. He was a Red Sox prospect originally, and
I
we were
remember.
rumored to get
I
him,
recall. I know things that
uh,
happened, more than like 2 years ago. They don't involve my team, jerk face. Yeah. So remember, the home run call's got to be on the main slate. Only 4, right? That's our rule, I think, unless we change it. Sorry. Only 4 games tonight. So if you are playing DFS, again, there are good pitchers tonight. It's not like you're randomly throwing darts or anything like that. But remember, on the main slate, only 4 games tonight.
All right. I think we have said it all. Again, there is afternoon baseball today, so we'll have enough to talk about on the show tomorrow. Here is Mayor with the confirmation. That is correct. Has to be on the main slate. Thank you, Lord of the List. Dan, before we get out of here, it's not like you have a busy day if you want to hang around and talk more Frank Schwindel for a while.
Yeah, I'd love to stay and talk baseball. I love baseball, by the way. Boy, some of the complaining, by the way, by the Peanuts and Cracker Jacks, like, oh, we're putting you to the side. Guys, it's August 20th, okay? Like, I don't know. You guys, I'm sure, hopefully are in a lot of leagues. Tuma, in our leagues, in my leagues, there's like 10% of people who are still like actively in it and paying attention. Like, we are here. We have been here every day. Stop criticizing us. The fact that we also have to devote some time to football. We're a fantasy sports company, man. We do it all, but we are still here for you. And yes, people who are apparently mad that we're having a fantasy football fest on August in draft season, slow your roll, man. Okay. Again, we had a fantasy baseball fest. You wanted 12 hours? Go Cards. All right, fine. Drum up the interest. Well, Joey P and I will do 12 hours, no bathroom breaks. We'll figure that out. But again, we love you. We're still here. We'll be here tomorrow. Tuma, I hope you're going to take care of the notes because I'm, unfortunately, as I said, going to be doing football for 12 hours now.
Yes, sir. Okay. We'll be on that. Please, everyone in the Peanuts and Cracker Jacks, support the Fantasy Fest today. Support the Kickoff podcast on wherever you listen to podcasts, Spotify, Apple Pods, everywhere. And yeah, we'll go from there. We'll have a good day tomorrow.
You bet. All right. So that's great. So do an official sign off to us. Say, I don't know, do a Joey P sign off. Do something fun.
All right, for Dan Harris at Dan Harris.
He's totally choking. He's choking. He's like, wait, I don't know how to sign off a podcast. It's the first time.
Too much Tuma. Megan, I'm coming.
All right.